For Jerusalem's sake, I will not remain quiet till her vindication shines out like the dawn, her salvation like a blazing torch. No longer will they call you deserted or name your land desolate, for the Lord will take delight in you. Say to Zion, see, your Messiah comes.
Hi, I'm Raphael Giglio, your host for They Thought for Themselves. I have with me Ze'ev Nevo. And Ze'ev, you're a Jewish man. You were born in Jerusalem, Israel. And you've written songs, and there's one in particular about God that you want to share with us. We'd love to hear it. Can you tell us about the song Real?
Yeah, the song is in Hebrew, and it was filmed in Jerusalem and the Dead Sea area in the Judean desert. And in Hebrew, real is called, we say amiti, like emet, the truth, so amiti. And even though I was born to Jewish family in Jerusalem, the holy city and all that, I didn't believe God was real until later in life, and then I wanted to write a song about it.
Awesome. So let's hear the song Real by Ze'ev Nevo.
אז כמו שסיפרו לנו מזמן בגן, אתה תמיד שם, אבל לא רק בין הדפים העתיקים, אתה כאן. אהבתך לבני אדם, לא כבתה מעולם, ממך לשתות צמאה נפשי, כי אתה אמיתי. אתה אחד שדיבר עם אברהם, יו, לא דתי, לא חילוני, אתה כיבית את החושך ואת האור לעולם, יו, אתה אמיתי, לא סיפור בדיוני, אתה חי וכחי, יו, אתה אמיתי. כמו ששלחת את משה את הנביאים, עכשיו תורי, בדיוק כמו ששמעת את דוד, תפילתי, כמו עמוד האש וענן, מצפוני המתוקן, כל העם יבוא איתי, כי אתה אמיתי. אתה אמיתי. אתה אחד שדיבר עם אברהם, יו. לא אשכנזי, לא ספרדי. אתה כיבית את החושך ואת האור לעולם, יו. אתה אמיתי, לא סיפור בדיוני.
Well, that was Ze'ev Nevo with Real, a song he wrote, a song about God. But you didn't start out believing in God, Ze'ev. Can you tell me about your father?
Yes, my father, his name was Joseph, and he came to Israel by himself when he was 12 years old on a boat, living in Berlin. And his entire family was left behind. His parents, his siblings, everyone else died in Auschwitz a few years after he left. So I never met them, obviously. I'm older than my grandparents ever were. Yeah, that's my background.
So tell me this, how did the fact that your father's whole family dying in the Holocaust at Auschwitz, how did they affect your father?
My father really loved the Bible. He knew the Bible very well, but I was raised as a secular Jewish child in Jerusalem. My parents did not believe in God. They just loved, well, my dad loved the Bible because it's the Jewish book. It's our book, and it has beautiful language, and for all those reasons, he loved the Bible. But I remember once he told me, not exactly that he doesn't believe in God, but he has a problem with God.
You weren't religious, your Dad was an atheist, but you're becoming 13 years old. Anything happened around that time?
Well, what I remember that happened, that my best friend decided, not to do the bar mitzvah.
Okay.
And we came from the same type of family, so to speak. We lived the same street in the same neighborhood. And he didn't do it, so I went to my dad and said, hey, Dad, maybe I shouldn't do it as well. Why should I do bar mitzvah? We don't believe in God or anything, so why? And to my surprise, all of a sudden he said, no, we're Jewish, so let's do the bar mitzvah.
Well, I know, so as you're growing, I've been to Israel many times, I have friends there, and the teenagers, when they graduate high school, they need to serve in the military for 3 years. Did you serve? And if you did, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, well, it's mandatory, so yes, I did. If anything, what it taught me is how to handle more difficult situation, not necessarily life-threatening situation, but more social environments, because all of a sudden you have to deal with all kinds of different people. So.
Okay, but no military conflicts that you were in that were dangerous or anything like that during the time?
No, it wasn't really dangerous.
Okay, but now you're an adult, so you've completed a bar mitzvah, now you've completed military. You still don't believe in God. What happened after the military?
Well, after the military, one day I'm sitting in the car with my mom, and out of the blue, she's telling me, I think you're going to be really good in advertising. So I studied that, and very quickly I started to work in advertising agencies. So after about 3 years of doing that, I'm on my phone with my mom again.
Mom?
And she, without me needing to say anything, she heard something, I'm not exactly happy. So I said, what is it? And I told her. And she said, remember you talked about a while ago, a year or two ago, maybe to go to London to study music production. So why don't you do that? So very soon after that, I stopped with advertising.
Okay.
And I moved to London to study music production.
Okay, so there's a purpose at play here. And did you feel that something was missing in your life at that point? Did you sense a hollowness, a void that was still there, even though you've had some success doing what you like to do, where you like to do it?
Yeah, I think I did, because I started some kind of a spiritual journey at the time.
Okay, so like you're seeking at this point, right?
Yes, I was seeking something. I guess I felt that there must be something more than that. Okay. And then going back and forth from where I lived to where I studied, everything looks normal. London streets, busy, buses, people, stores. Then all of a sudden there is one of the stores had a very unusual store sign, and it says, Jews for Jesus. You have to understand, for a Jewish person to see something like that is like, I don't know, for someone, let's say Christian, would say Christian for Muhammad. What is that? You're either Jewish or you're Christian. In my mind, that cannot be combined. And here I am next to this very weird store. So I thought to myself, maybe I should walk in, see if I can help them. They seem a little confused.
They needed your help?
Yes. But at the very front, next to the window, I saw a little book, maybe it's something this size, burgundy color, and it says on top of it in Hebrew, Habrit HaChadashah.
Okay, so you know that the Brit Hadashah is the New Testament. How did that make you feel?
It's the New Testament. In Hebrew, it means the New Covenant. I knew what it is, but what I couldn't really understand is, why is this in Hebrew? Because who on earth needs the New Testament in Hebrew? This is the Bible, again, of the Christians. We Jewish people, if we want to be religious, we have an even thicker book. It's called the Tanakh. And we can have a lot to read there and pray and whatever religious people do. So we don't need any extension, in my mind, at that time. And all of a sudden I see a guy, very nice guy, young, like early 20s, doesn't dress like a religious person at all. He would dress like me, like kind of normal, even a little bit cool. He had a nose piercing.
Oh, nose piercing.
Yes, and that was refreshing to me. We started to talk. He knew Hebrew. He had an American accent. He's originally from the States. But he was there in London, and we started to talk. And I asked him what it's all about. And he said that he's Jewish. His name is very Jewish too. His last name is very Jewish too. He was married at the time, very young. Everything about it was very different in a good way. And he said that he believes in the Bible, everything that's written in the Tanakh. And he also believes that everything's written in the Brit Chadashah, in the New Testament. And therefore, he believes that, he said that Yeshua is the Messiah.
Yeshua, he used that word. Right?
Yes, and that was the first time that I heard that name.
Now, let me pause you there. It's the first time you heard the word Yeshua. I know there's Christian believers in Israel, and particularly in Jerusalem, they use the word Yeshua. Tell me how that was the first time you heard the name.
Well, the reason being that I haven't heard it before is that in Israel, since I remember myself, the name, what we call in Jesus in Hebrew, is not Yeshua. It's similar. It's shorter. We call him Yeshu.
Yeshu.
Now, Yeshu, there isn't any other person ever that I knew about that his name is Yeshu. It's a very unique name. So it's not like a Jewish name like Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, David. No, it's like a weird name, Yeshu. But I knew from early in life that that name is actually an acronym. It's 3 letters in Hebrew, Yud, Shin, Vav. And as an acronym, each letter stands for a word, and it completes the sentence in Hebrew. I don't even want to say it in Hebrew, but it means, may his name and memory be blotted out.
I have heard that.
So what really happened that at some point in history, rabbis decided, I guess, that his name, his real name, Yeshua, kind of points to who he is. Because in Hebrew, Yeshua, in modern Hebrew today, not just in biblical Hebrew, Yeshua means salvation. And I thought, well, if there was a Messiah, that's kind of a good name for a Messiah.
Yeah.
You know, Yeshua.
Wow. So this has your attention now. So tell me what happened next in your journey.
Yes, so when I left that store, I left with a few books. One of them is this little burgundy Brit Chadashah book, the New Testament, and a few other books about the topic. And I started to read those books and the New Testament. And here I am opening the Brit Chadashah, New Testament in Hebrew, and I'm expecting to read, I mean, what I would expect is like about Christianity, about Jesus Christ, about another religion, and yet you open, first page, Matthew chapter 1, and immediately what you see, Yeshua HaMashiach, the son of Abraham, the son of David, and Isaac, and Jacob, and so forth, and all throughout generations until he was born. And I'm continuing to read, and the more I read, I see that the New Testament is referring back to what's written in the Old Testament, and that happened just like the prophet said over here. And that happened just like the prophet said over there. And I realized it's a very Jewish book.
That's amazing, yeah, that you, from your perspective, and having not fully studied the Torah, but you're aware of it in the Tanakh, you can take the two, the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, and the Old Testament, the Hebrew Scriptures, and you see this correlation. That probably really surprised you, didn't it?
It really surprised me, and it really, because it referred back to the Old Testament, I went back and read the Old Testament. And although I didn't believe in God, even at that moment, of course, what I did know, for sure, it was very solid in my mind, that the New Testament was written in the 1st century, and the Tanakh, you know, made out of quite a few books, written throughout history, but way before the 1st century. The last book, the book of Malachi, was written 400 years before. So what was really interesting to me and sparked my attention, that how is it possible that all those things, all those pieces of information about the identity of the Messiah, written historically way before the 1st century, and in that book that so many Jewish people believe it's like the Word of God, and now I see that in this special book that I didn't believe in at the time, yet everything concerning the Messiah that was written historically before points exactly to him.
Interesting, amazing. So you're studying this, but you're still considering yourself an atheist at this point, correct?
Yes, I basically was reading, and the more you read, the more pieces come together. I see it almost like a big puzzle, and you get another piece of information, boom. Yeah. And where he's going to be born, boom. And the fact that Israel will reject him, and he's not really just for Israel, he's for all nations. He will come from Israel, first and foremost for Israel, but then his purpose is not to save just Israel, but to be the savior of all the world. And the more pieces of puzzle come together, the more I'm starting to see a very clear picture of Yeshua.
It's amazing. It's awesome. So I love where you're at now and what you're telling us about your journey. When we come back, Ze'ev is going to tell us how he found and what he found concerning Messiah.
A young Jewish man is addicted to drugs, shooting heroin and using massive quantities of LSD and speed. Life is one big party to him, and he lives his life with reckless abandon. His nickname is Drug Bear, and he's known for being proud and rotten to the core. But then he discovers a revelation that totally changes his life. He quits the drugs, earns a PhD, and authors more than 30 books. Do you want to learn what his revelation was? Have you ever wondered if there's more to life? For the ending to this true story, go to www.theythoughtforthemselves.com.
I'm here with my special guest, Ze'ev Nevo, and he grew up in Jerusalem, but grew up as an atheist. He had his bar mitzvah at age 13, but it was more or less tradition. It wasn't until he got out of the military and had a career in London that he began to explore more about God. He was challenged by a Jewish man who believed that Yeshua was the promised Jewish Messiah. So Ze'ev, now you're beginning to dig deeper into the Holy Scriptures. You're comparing the Old Testament with the New Testament, and you're trying to discover if Yeshua is really the Messiah. Tell us where we are.
Yeah, well, like I said, there is a lot of information in different sections of the Old Testament. Probably the most famous one is Isaiah 53, but I want to say, this is by far not the only one. Yes, it's a very central one, but that by itself probably would not convince me. I would need to see more evidence to be convinced with something so extreme for a Jewish people, for a Jewish person like me to believe. But if we're talking for a second about Isaiah 53, I want to just point out a few things that really convinced me that Yeshua is the Messiah. For example, in verse 3, it says, "He is despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief." And then it says, and Isaiah is talking to the people of Israel, and he says, "And we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we did not esteem him." So it clearly talks about this righteous person that dies for the sins of everyone, but then he says that he will be rejected, that we as the Jewish people will actually hide our faces from him. We would not want to even look at him, and that is one of the things that are well known about Yeshua among the Jewish people. He is not for us. We want to hide our face from him. We don't want to even look at him. Now, the other thing that is very interesting, I also read opposition, of rabbis and things, what they say. Oh, they say it doesn't talk about the Messiah. It talks about the people of Israel in general, as if we, Israel, are this righteous servant that is suffering. Well, first of all, even though my knowledge in Bible at the time wasn't that deep, but it was very clear that it's not like the Jewish people don't sin. In the Bible, we read continually about how we sin, how our kings sin, how David sinned. So it's not like we don't sin. It says, "For the transgressions of my people," Isaiah is saying, "he was stricken." So it clearly says that all that happened to him because of the sins of my people, of Israel. So that cannot be Israel that we're talking about here. It can be about one from Israel that will come to fulfill the role of the Messiah of Israel and the Savior of the world.
Wow, beautiful. So that obviously really spoke to you. So at this point in your journey, you're convinced that this is clearly speaking about Yeshua, about Jesus. So tell us how it happened that you made him your Messiah. Did you say some special prayer to receive him as Messiah? Tell us what happened when you took that step.
Well, at that time, I didn't know that I'm convinced.
Okay.
I was still gathering information. But then came a moment that I had to kind of face where I am. Do I believe or do I not believe yet? And basically, I met with the same person we met first time at the store. We kept meeting every week or two, and we were reading things together and discussing questions and so forth. And one of those times, that was about 3 months after we initially met, he asked, we were sitting at some kind of a restaurant somewhere, and he also came with his wife at that time. I mean, they're still married, but he came with his wife, and he asked me if I want to pray.
Okay.
Now, I was 27, and I never prayed in my life.
Never prayed at all in your life?
No, because if you don't believe in God, who do you pray to?
True.
So I never prayed. So I asked him, what do you mean by praying? And he said, well, if you can say that you believe in him. So I said, well, I don't know. You tell me what you think I should pray, but break it to sentences. And if I agree with the sentence, I'll repeat.
Okay.
If I don't, I will not repeat. So he's saying a sentence, and and I put in my mouth, yeah, of course, I read it here, it makes sense, of course. So yes, I repeat, and another sentence, and I repeat, and another sentence, and I repeat. All of a sudden, he and his wife are so happy.
Yeah.
I said, what happened? They said, you believe. I said, I believe? And then I stopped and I realized that everything that I just said, I actually believe.
So what did that feel like now that you've said this prayer and you've acknowledged the fact that you truly believe?
It takes time for the whole thing really to sink in. But I remember going back to where I lived and just kind of thinking about that. And I was just shocked that I believed. I was mostly shocked that I realized that I believed.
Wow.
And soon after that, my time in London was over. I'm talking like a month after that. So it was just at the very end of my time there. And I went back to Jerusalem, to my parents' apartment. My dad, that lost his entire family in the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And now I need to tell them about what I found out.
Of course. Wow. So tell me what that was like.
I told them, my mom wasn't, because she was more like on the atheist side, even her upbringing, so she wasn't too concerned about that. My dad really took it to heart. Of course, you have to understand, I was born when my parents were pretty old for parents.
Okay.
I have one sister, and I guess they also wanted a son. And after many years, kind of at the last minute, I showed up.
Okay.
So here he has this Jewish son
Right.
to carry, the family name and the name of his dad that died in Auschwitz. That's my name.
Yeah.
So for him, that wasn't exactly what he was planning on, to say the least. So it took it to heart. It was very hard on him. I was never rejected. It's not like he kicked me out or he stopped loving me, but he was really hoping it's just a phase.
I have a question. So since you've become a believer in Yeshua as Messiah, have you been able to share that with other Jewish people?
Yes, quite a few times. I mean, that was 6 years after London. I joined the same group from London called Jews for Jesus.
Wow.
And I was a missionary on the street with T-shirts, with pamphlets, calling, out of the telephone book, knocking on doors, standing on, junctions with billboards, with telephone numbers to call. A lot of opposition in Israel. It's not the easiest place to share the gospel.
And you have reached some, I imagine. And is there any one story in particular that you felt was very profound, really encouraging?
Yes, there are a few I can tell about, but there's one that came to mind now when you talk about that. His name was Abraham. He was in Tel Aviv. There is a famous street called Dizengoff Street in Tel Aviv. And there is the Dizengoff Circle. It's like a fountain. It's a very well-known place. And he was homeless. And he was just sitting there. And I approached him and we started to talk. And he was a very smart man. And we had very, very deep, interesting conversations. And I kept meeting with him until he prayed to receive the Lord. And we baptized him in the shore of Tel Aviv in the Mediterranean. And a few months later, I come to meet him again, and he's not there. And I'm starting to look for him, and I know where he was staying and his friends and all that. He passed away.
Oh, wow.
But he passed away to the arms of Yeshua.
Awesome. That's a great story. Can you look at the camera and speak to those people that absolutely need Yeshua as Messiah, but they're still searching?
Just stop for a second. We're doing so many things that are not important. Just stop for 1 second and ask God if He is real, and if He is, to show you that He's real and that Yeshua is your Savior. And I just pray that, the rest of my family in Israel and all Israel will hear the name of Yeshua, will hear the gospel in a way that they can understand that He is Jewish, that He is first and foremost for them, that believing in Yeshua does not mean that they stop being Jewish and convert to another religion. Far from it. I can say about myself that I'm, as a Jew, did not believe in God before. I believe in Yeshua. So in many, many ways, I'm way more Jewish now than I ever was.
That's
and
awesome.
I pray that for all of Israel.
Well, one of the ways that you express this is through writing songs, and you wrote one song that's based on Psalm 13. So let's listen to the song Psalm 13 by Ze'ev Nevo.
Adonai, Elohai,
האירה עיניי,
ben ishan hamavet, ben yomar oivi yecholtiv, tzarai yagilo ki yamor.
עד אנה אדוני תשכחני נצח.
עד אנה תסתיר את פניך ממני.
עד אנה אשית את סוד בנפשי, יגון בלבבי יומם. עד אנה ירום אויבי עליי, הביטה ענני.
אדוני אלוהי,
האירה עיניי,
ben ishan hamavet, ben yomar oivi yecholtiv, tzarai yagילו ki yemot. ואני בחסדך בטחתי, יגן